Under intense pressure, South Africa's Jacob Zuma resigns the presidency to avoid a no-confidence vote. We'll have a live update from Johannesburg. Morgan Tsvangirai, the face of Zimbabwe's opposition, dies of cancer at 65. And how African women in the diaspora are making a difference in U.S. politics. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Linor Mudu. This is Africa 54. Thank you so much for joining us. Vincent Makori is off today. We begin tonight with several major stories. Longtime Zimbabwean opposition leader Morgan Tsvangirai died on Wednesday, and we'll have the details on his life and legacy. Following years of widespread unrest, Ethiopian Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn stepped down Thursday, and we'll have the latest on the situation in Addis Ababa. But first, feeling the intense pressure of an impending no-confidence vote, scandal-ridden South African President Jacob Zuma reluctantly resigned Wednesday. VOA's Latika Hoke has our report.
For years, Zuma's opponents have demanded his resignation and an investigation into fraud and corruption allegations against him. He has survived several no-confidence votes in the parliament with the support of his African National Congress party. But this time, the lawmakers of the ruling ANC have made it clear he has lost their support. The opposition welcomed the decision.
As you know, we've been calling all week for this motion to be fast-tracked. I think that all parties are united in wanting to remove President Zuma and to start writing a new chapter.
Faced with a forcible ouster, Zuma announced his voluntary resignation in a televised address to the nation Wednesday.
I do not fear exiting political office. However, I have only asked my party to articulate my transgressions, and the reason for its immediate instruction that I vacate office.
Zuma's rule was marred with scandals, and many South Africans wanted him impeached for using state funds to renovate his private country home. On Wednesday, the police raided the luxury home of the Indian-born Gupta family of rich entrepreneurs with alleged corrupt links to the president. The ANC issued a statement saying Zuma's resignation provided certainty to the people of South Africa. The former ANC fighter who rose through the party ranks to become president is leaving the country's economy in tatters. For some people, this was the main reason they wanted to see him go.
I really believe that he should step down because I want South Africa, just like other South Africans, I believe, I want him to step down and resign so that we can have a better South Africa and, yeah, basically more jobs and everything else that he wasn't doing for us.
Zuma is replaced by his deputy Cyril Ramaphosa, who was elected as ANC's new leader in December. Zlatica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
On the heels of Zuma's resignation, Cyril Ramaphosa has been elected president of South Africa by Parliament on Thursday. For the latest on South Africa, Anita Powell, VOA's Southern Africa correspondent, joins me live via Skype from Johannesburg. Good evening, Anita.
Hi, Lenore.
So a lot has happened in 24 hours in South Africa. Tell us how people are reacting after Zuma's exit and with Cyril Ramaphosa now new president.
I think there's a lot of optimism today in South Africa now that the main expressed political wish of the South African people for Zuma to leave has happened. Cyril Ramaphosa was sworn in just about an hour ago, and the mood in Cape Town where he was sworn in was jubilant and hopeful.
So you say people have hope. Who is Cyril Ramaphosa to the average people in South Africa, and what is he expected to do differently at this point?
Cyril poses kind of an unusual guy because he's been in public life for a long time, but not much is known about him personally. He's a longtime ANC member. He's a very successful businessman, and his roots are in the union movement. So a lot of South Africans hope that he's going to bring economic improvement, prosperity, and he's already done a little bit of that. He's made some deals at the World Economic Forum in Davos that have been widely praised. So they're hoping for a change.
What are the big issues facing him, though?
Well, the first thing he's got to do is improve the economy in a tangible way for South Africans, and that's kind of a tall order. As the report just said, the economy is suffering. We have about 27% unemployment in South Africa. The other thing he has to do is restore South Africans' faith in the African National Congress if he wants to keep his job and win next year's election.
Okay, Anita, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
And that was VOA's Anita Powell reporting live via Skype from Johannesburg. Now, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn submitted his resignation Thursday, both as premier and the chairman of the ruling coalition, in an effort to facilitate reforms following years of widespread unrest. In a televised address to the nation, Desalegn said his resignation was part of a vital bid to carry out reforms that would lead to sustainable peace and democracy. Hundreds of people have died in violence sparked in 2015 and 2016 in the country's two most populous regions, Oromia and Amhara. The unrest began as opposition to an urban development plan for Addis Ababa, but turned into public demonstrations against political restrictions, land grabbing, and human rights abuses. His resignation follows lingering violence that pressured the government to release more than 6,000 political prisoners since January. Most of the released prisoners, which included high-level opposition figures and journalists, were detained for alleged involvement in the mass protests. Now, Zimbabwean opposition leader Morgan Tsvangirai, known for his dogged quest to end the regime of former President Robert Mugabe, has died just a month after Mugabe caved to pressure to step down after decades in power. His life's mission took its toll. Tsvangirai, who was 65, succumbed after a long battle with cancer. With more, here is VOA's Anita Powell in Johannesburg.
Even in his final months, Morgan Tsvangirai did not slow down in his life's mission to bring political change to Zimbabwe.
That in the interest of the people of Zimbabwe, Mr. Robert Mugabe must resign, step down immediately in line with the national sentiment and expectation.
He got his wish shortly before his death. In late 2017, Mugabe resigned after 38 years as president. His right-hand man, Emerson Mnangagwa, was sworn in to replace him. Tsvangirai never got to lead his movement for democratic change to victory, but his supporters say his efforts were what mattered.
Morgan Tsvangirai is the first man to actually have the bravery to stand against Mugabe and bring about results.
Tsvangirai challenged Mugabe time and time again, contesting Mugabe's quest for the presidency in 2002, 2008, and 2013. Elections marked with repression, violence, and irregularities. He spent nearly as much time on the campaign trail as he did in jail for an assortment of politically motivated trials and arrests. He also tried to make peace with the longtime leader, joining a government of national unity and serving as prime minister from 2009 to 2013. That move was met with mixed public reaction, and the coalition eventually fell apart. He will be remembered most for his tenacity, says analyst Gideon Chitanga.
He did not flinch, he did not betray the struggle for democracy, he did not surrender. He even sacrificed his victory in 2008 to try and accommodate the military regime in Zimbabwe, fronted by Robert Mugabe, as a way of facilitating a smooth transition to democracy. The challenges of that period we can discuss about, but I think that he is probably one of the greatest statesmen Zimbabwe has ever produced.
He had been fighting colon cancer since 2016, but in his own way, in the end, he won the bigger fight that kept him going for so long, seeing the end of the Mugabe regime. Anita Powell, VOA News, Johannesburg.
For more on the passing of Morgan Tsvangirai and the future of the movement for Democratic Change Party, I am joined by VOA Zimbabwe reporter Blessing Zulu. Blessing, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is mine.
So Tsvangirai is dead. What is the general sentiment here?
I think it's a very sad moment for Zimbabweans. You know, we have been through a lot under the leadership of former President Robert Mugabe, political killings, instability, the economy headed south. So it was the hope of many Zimbabweans that after Mr. Mugabe left office after a military coup, probably Mr. Tsvangirai was going to take over, or at least there was going to be real democracy. But now the nation is in mourning.
How do people in general, the average person in Zimbabwe, see Tsvangirai's legacy?
I think they see Tsvangirai as a unifier and also as one of them. Remember, he rose through the trade union ranks. At one time, he actually worked as a sweeper in a factory. He was the Secretary General of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions before becoming a politician. So he was actually one with the majority of Zimbabweans. You can call him a man of the people.
Now, what is the future of the MDC now that he's gone? He was such an essential figure, not only for the MDC, but also for the opposition as a whole in the country.
Of course, at the time of his death, he was trying to bring together a coalition. He called it the MDC Alliance. They had about 7 opposition political parties, and they were still trying to bring in the fold many opposition political parties. But with his death, I think it's all is not well in the MDC. There are about 3 factions. You know, you had 3 vice presidents, and they are all fighting for power. So the future for his party is not very certain.
Now, with Mugabe gone and Tsvangirai dead, are we witnessing a new era in Zimbabwe politics?
Yeah, it might be a new era in Zimbabwe's politics because since 2002, this is the first time that you are seeing Mugabe and Tsvangirai not on the ballot.
Okay, now finally, quickly, have you heard anything about his funeral? Will he be given state funeral?
I talked to his son, his firstborn son, Edwin, who is in South Africa. He's saying that the government has assured the family that they are going to give him a state-assisted funeral. I also talked to the President Emmerson Mnangagwa spokesperson, George Charamba. He confirmed that the state will actually assist the family in his burial. But his body is still in South Africa, where he passed on yesterday, and they hope the body will be flown to Zimbabwe this Saturday or Sunday. The burial arrangements, the family is still meeting.
Okay, Blessings. Thanks so much for the insights.
Thank you.
And that was VOA Zimbabwe reporter Blessing Zulu. And Tsvangirai was arguably Zimbabwe's most popular politician. The mining union leader's career was ultimately defined by his battles, both literal and figurative, with 93-year-old Robert Mugabe, who resigned after a de facto coup in December. Zimbabweans reacted to the death of opposition leader Morgan Tsvangirai, saying it was a great loss to the country.
The demise of Dr. Morgan Tsvangirai, the MDC leader and former Prime Minister of the Republic of Zimbabwe, is a sad occasion for the people of Zimbabwe. It's a huge loss to the people of Zimbabwe.
The nation has lost an icon. We have lost as a party. We have lost our father. We have lost our leader. We have lost, oh my God, I can't even express myself.
Now to Kenya, where a court on Thursday revoked the deportation of a lawyer who swore in opposition leader Raila Odinga as the country's president. The ruling is likely to worsen relations between the judiciary and President Uhuru Kenyatta's government. Miguna, who holds a dual Kenyan and Canadian citizenship, is currently in Canada after being put on a flight to Toronto by the Kenyan government last week following several days in police detention. A High Court judge on Thursday declared Minguna's deportation order illegal and ordered the government to surrender his Kenyan passport, which was seized when he was deported. The judge gave the government 7 days to comply. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We are also streaming on our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Find me on Twitter at Linormudu. Coming up, is falling in love the key to losing weight? Stay with us.
News and notes. This is Living Better.
I moved from being the oldest nurse in the emergency department to a youngster comparison to the 90-year-olds.
That's Chicago nurse practitioner Dwayne Dobschuetz. He makes up to 4 visits a day to senior patients, checking on them at their homes. It's a new approach to elder care that can help to keep seniors in their own homes.
They don't want to be in a nursing home. They don't even want to be in a good nursing home. They want to be where they're in control.
Early research shows that in-home care for seniors can help to reduce unnecessary hospital admissions. Hospitals pose dangers to older patients and may expose them to infection. Dr. Scott Dresden of Northwestern Memorial Hospital.
We're trying to, know them a little bit better, understand them a little better, and see exactly what they need, as opposed to just opening the door and saying, hey, you need to come into the hospital.
Some 10,000 people in the United States turn 65 years old every day. I'm Martin Seacrest for VOA's Living Better.
Now, for those who are in love, Valentine's Day was Wednesday, a day to celebrate love around the world. And guess what? Well, experts say falling in love may help you lose weight. That's some good news there. To find out more, we are joined live via Skype from Los Angeles by Nancy Bryan, author of Thin is a State of Mind. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you say that falling in love is the best weight loss trick. How so?
Well, it turns out that both the body and the mind are involved. The body puts out hormones that suppress appetite, and the mind, you're so focused on how wonderful your lover is, you forget completely about food.
Oh, how about that? Well, there have been also some scientific research that have proven this to be true. Can you explain to us how the hormones work in helping the body lose some weight?
Well, as I said, mostly they just simply have a side effect of depressing appetite. Mm-hmm. The main hormone is called oxytocin, and that's the bonding hormone. That's when you and your lover are bonded together.
So this is something that you've experienced it yourself as well, right?
I did. Long ago when I was in college, all of my life I had thought that losing weight was something terribly difficult, in fact, even impossible. Then one time I fell in love, and 3 weeks later I looked around and discovered I had lost 20 pounds without being even aware of it happening. And that was quite surprising.
Very surprising. No exercising, no diet control?
No, nothing. I just was completely unaware of it. I was so focused on being in love that I just simply didn't think about food the way I used to think about it.
So falling in love is the first step. Then there is the aftermath. When you are in love, when the feeling becomes kind of steady, can you still have this effect on the body to lose weight?
Yes, it can, because there's also a feedback loop connected. You and your lover both mutually adore each other, and so you're sending each other constant messages that you're wonderful. And your body-mind really just goes about following those instructions to be as good as you can be. Doctors have always known that a woman is closest to her ideal weight on her wedding day than she will ever be again. They never quite understood why. That's because there's feedback loops going around that encourage this perfection, so to speak.
Has the opposite been proven, where when you fall out of love, you can gain weight?
Yes, yes.
Possibly.
And that's mostly because you're trying to keep unpleasant thoughts out of your consciousness. And unfortunately, food is what you use to make that happen.
That's true. And I guess, thank you for the trick. And I guess in 2018, I will try to follow your advice and fall in love. Nancy, thank you so much for joining us today.
you so much.
And that was Nancy Bryan. She's author of Thin is a State of Mind. It is now time for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. African women running for office in the U.S. share their experiences. We'll be right back.
Could be French,
English,
Portuguese,
Bantu,
Arabic.
It is the beat.
The African beat that counts.
The beat does all the translations.
It cuts across all languages and gives us the understanding that this is the African beat.
It is so distinct
and adhesive.
It binds us together.
African beat on the Voice of America. For more information, visit our website at www.voanews.com/African beat.
How do you see the world?
I see countries in turmoil.
I see our planet changing.
I see people at peace.
No matter how you see the world, you'll get an unbiased and uncensored view of it on Voice of America. On television, radio, online, and mobile. In more than 40 languages all day, every day. Millions of people tune us in.
How do I see the world? On Voice of America.
Welcome back. Well, a recent article published by Pew Research Center says Africans now make up 39% of the overall foreign-born black population, up from 24% in 2000. As African immigrants are increasing in numbers in the United States, they are becoming more active in the political process by running for elected offices. Joining us in the studio are two of these women. Winnie Obike is a doctoral candidate at the Department of Communication, University of Maryland. Hello, Winnie.
Hi there.
And Sia Fino is social activist and founder of Free Education for Africa. Sia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And both women are candidates for Maryland State House of Delegates. It is so good to have you on the program. Listen, let me start with this very first question. Winnie, why are you running for office?
So I'm running as a Republican because I was born in Minnesota. My family is from Nigeria. My father is Nigerian. My mother is from Cameroon. And growing up, I always was interested in the political process. But I moved to Maryland to get my PhD, like your introduction said, at the University of Maryland in communication. And observing the political process, interning on Capitol Hill, working with different issues that come up on the ballot, I decided that it was time to stop hiding behind the curtain and come forward, because some of the issues that our people have to face in the United States require person-to-person representation. It's not just about hitching your tent to some other candidate out there. It's about going in and being that face to encourage younger people to join the struggle as well.
Great. And you, Sia, why are you running for office?
Well, I am originally from Sierra Leone. I grew up here, and I came and I fell in love with the political system because I came and Bill Clinton was running, and I wrote him a letter, and he replied back to me. And that's when the bug of being running for office came in mind. And but actually, the experiences that I went through here as an immigrant that really helped me, that persuaded me to take part in running for office. My son decided to go into the military, the U.S. Army, and that gave me the more urge, said, my son is volunteering his life for this nation. Why shouldn't I volunteer my time for my community here? Then we're here. And a lot of African women and immigrant women are here. We give tremendously to this nation.
So to what extent is the voice of the African woman in this political landscape being heard? Winnie?
Sure. I think that the African woman has a really unique place in American politics, especially as a conservative, because a lot of us are coming from conservative nations. For instance, in my father's home country, Nigeria, it's actually illegal for you to have or express homosexual relationship, right? So we're coming from countries where these conservative ideas are already a part of us. And then we're coming to the United States of America, which from my political point of view needs a revival. So if there's anything that the African woman or the African family can give as new immigrants to the United States is that sense of revival of what it means to be a conservative nation.
But there are those who say, you as a Democrat, you know, she talked about homosexuality, talk about freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So you come from that perspective.
Yes, yes. For me, everybody's way of life is their way of life. We are more concerned with the social aspect of our community, poverty. Women make up the large number of residents in my district. And as single mother and a lot of single mothers, we want to pay close attention to them. Homosexuality is not an issue to me, but my main concern is women and how for them to be able to take care of their families and still be able to take care of themselves, because we are the breadwinner. Majority of us are the breadwinner in my district.
Now, when we look at the women's empowerment movement today, there are some skeptics who say that because it is true, women need more voice, they need to have their voices heard, they need more power, they need more representation. And there is this sense of entitlement that seems to be growing. So why would somebody vote for you as a woman as opposed to voting for your male counterpart who is a candidate?
Well, we're not saying that they shouldn't vote for men. They should look for the qualified candidate. And we want to be treated equally. Yes. You know, we're not going there, you know, mauling down the men. We need them. We need them to work together. We cannot affect any change in our community without working with the men. So, but I advise them to go, the voters, to look out and see who they want to be represented, so they can go ahead and vote for that person.
And Winnie, let me have your reaction to the question.
Sure. I don't think it's about voting for the woman versus the man. I really think the primary focus is what are the ideas that a candidate is bringing forward. I found that when a lot of candidates go for this identity politics of I'm a woman, vote for me, or I'm of a particular community, vote for me, it falls flat because voters want ideas. They want better transportation, for example. They want access to equal education. They want school choice. They want immigration reform. I can go down the list. And for my constituents, they want an end to abortion and an end to same-sex marriage. So those are some of the reasons why people would vote for me.
In my district, we're more concerned about immigration. Yeah, because I have a very large population of Africans in my district. So immigration is more immigration and single women.
So the priorities are different.
Different.
Winnie, Sia, thank you so much for joining us. The elections are in June. We wish you the best.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you. And that was Winnie Obike and Sia Fino. They are candidates for Maryland State House of Representatives. That's our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 300 and 600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching and good night from Washington.
Welcome to English in a Minute. This expression sounds like a violent way of eating, but it's actually not always about eating.
Here is your Russian book, Anna. Thanks for letting me borrow it.
Oh, are you done with level 1 already?
Yeah, I finished last week, and I've already finished level 2.
Wow, you are really sinking your teeth into learning Russian.
Well,